Hi everybody. Today's presentation is going to be about my senior project. It's called about living on your own senior project. Here's a picture of the housing. And when moving into an apartment or home, now you might decide to hire movers or rent a truck. But you have to think of the rule of thumb. You should not spend more than 20% of net income on rent or mortgage payments. You have to think about the rent for the first month, the rent for the last month, the cleaning deposit, security deposit, utilities deposit, telephone deposit. Housing. So someday you might decide to live on your own, but first you need to really know the different types of housing. Apartment, condo, single family home, tiny home, townhome. And residential neighborhoods have a lot of fun things to do, such as groups or hiking trails. It's got good residential living. Budgeting to live on your own. You might be thinking about how to get a job someday, or go to college for 4 years, or go straight in the world of work. Some good examples of good quality paid jobs are police officer, salesperson, a cashier. So those are just examples of how you might get paid, but you have to think of your total income. Support maybe family, yourself, a car, home, or apartment, and school if you plan to go to college for 4 years. Here's a budgeting list, and I'll just show you of what you need to think about. 600 rent, that's just an example. Or you want to think about like car payment, car insurance. You probably can't see that, but it's basically just car payment, car insurance. And if you have a car, if you have an apartment, so stuff like that. I want you to live on your own. A lease agreement to live on your own. So lease agreement outlines the details, obligations, responsibilities of the landlord and tenant, because you will be the tenant. The tenant you're going to be is you have to make sure that you agree everything the landlord says, from such as paying rent on time. Here's an example of a residential rental lease agreement. It's just you have to sign at the bottom, read everything all around, sign at the bottom if you agree everything. Go. Cars and loans to live on your own. Someday you might think about buying a car from a company. You have to first think about how much you have in a loan to take out to buy a car. And, paying for car payment and car insurance per monthly. But there's things also you have to pay for the gasoline, the oil under fluids, tires, they have to be changed, and maintenance or repairs in case you need it. Parking and tolls, if you go out of state like to California, you can pay for tolls. Oil change in case it has to be changed monthly for an oil change.
No. Once every 6 months.
Once every 6 months. Okay, paying with debit cards to live on your own. How are you going to pay with debit cards to live on your own? You have to think about that. That's a question that you all have to decide. You have to think about how much you have on your debit card so you can pay for things such as groceries. And I'll just show you an example of how I might do it. So, you can also use your debit card in most stores to pay for something such as shampoo. You just swipe the card and enter the PIN number on the keypad. Debit cards take money out of your checking account immediately. I'll walk you through one example of how I would use a debit card at a grocery store. I would just pick out any items I want, then I would go up to the self-checkout and swipe the card and enter my PIN number, and it's good after that. And here's a picture of some debit cards. You just put your own PIN in, you make it. And so shopping for groceries to live on your own. Every time you go into a store, you're probably a kid. Maybe you're not a kid, but when you were a kid, every time you go into a store with your parents, you say to them, "Oh, this looks nice. I want to get this." But you don't have to pay for it. But when you live on your own, you have to pay for your own groceries. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to buy them, because that's the part of living on your own. So here's an example of how I might go grocery shopping when I live on my own. I would first make a list, pick out which items I really need, and swipe my debit card to pay for them, and take my bag of groceries, and then walk out the store. So you want to make a list, pick out what you really need, make sure you have cash card, and take your receipt before you walk out the store. Because there's a lot of people that don't take the receipt, and maybe they could get hacked. So just putting that out there that maybe it's okay. So I don't know if everybody wants to do this, but if everybody wants to participate, they can log on to Zillow.com and to search for an apartment or home. So you're going to just enter a zip code if you know any. And I'll show you an example at the end. Or neighborhood that in the search bar. But let's say you want to view listings in large areas spanning local boundaries. Well, Zillow makes it easy. Just use the drawbar below the map to draw your own search boundary. You can even draw several boundaries so you have multiple areas to search. So if everybody is participating and wants to do this, they're going to go on to Zillow.com, type that into the internet if they have it. All right. Then it's going to say onto their reimagine home. And we'll find you a place that we want to stay at. And that's going to, like, I'll put in 725 Grand Lebacan Road. And that's in California. Now, it's just an example of what I'm just doing. And then you would just type that in, and it shows you the zestimate of where you're going to want to pay for monthly. And you have to work with the agent and all that. So when you go on to that, if you want to, you can figure that out. Okay. Banking to live on your own. So someday you have to do your banking by yourself. You have to get your checking account, savings account, picking the bank you really want to future cash from a paycheck from work, make a deposit, make a withdrawal out of your banking you choose. Now, part of banking is to make sure you have the right amount of money in your savings account. Here are some types of banking accounts: individual account, joint account, business account, and a partnership account. Cooking to live on your own. Someday, you have to prepare cook on your own meals on your own. Part of that is making your own recipes, like preparing what you want to make for meals in a full week, or sorting out to have categories of any food sorted out, such as beans or dairy, in case you want to make totally different. So basically, you're sorting out food that you go to the grocery store. So one example is you have to write it down. You want to make sure that you get the groceries. You know, groceries just don't store up at home. You have to pay for them. And another thing is, no one's going to be able to think your night before. You got to think about what you're going to make for the full week. So, yeah. Paying bills to live on your own. Someday you have to pay your own bills on your own. Maybe some of you are doing that right now. You either call up or pay the bill by card, or mail it by cash or check to the right company that you owe the money for. Now, if the money is late to the company, they might get concerned, confused. You know, you might owe money to them. Here's an example of how I might pay my bill when I get. So I would see how much money I have in the bill, get a cash or check, pay it, and maybe I would just make sure the company got my bill. Now, here's what you got to do. You got to pay your bill and see how much money you owe. Call up or mail cash or check to the company. Make sure the company got your bill. That's very important. Buying a home. Now, I don't think anybody, maybe down the road, if they're younger, I don't think anybody's going to buy a home till around 6 or maybe 2 years, whenever you decide. But basically, buying a home is easier than you might think. I'll walk you through a few basic steps. What type of housing should I buy? How can I afford to spend? Where do I want to live? What aspects of the home need improvement? What type of mortgage could I buy? Or get? Can I qualify for a mortgage? How much down payment is available? What funds and documents are needed for the closing? And is everything understood before the final signing? So, down the road, you might be thinking of having a home, and when you buy a home, you'll think about where you want to live. You just, so any questions, just put them in you can just type them in the comments, and I'll try to just put them in the comments, and you can see if this video helped. Have a good day.